All right, panel. So basically, there is no difference between the opening government and the closing government. Even the relativism that David tends to think is sophisticated is more or else like still giving a global definition for what you know extremism primarily is, and this is something that has been tackled from opening. However, Ruka goes more analytically in tackling this. However, let us examine the sort of things we get from Ruka and the feeble responses David has to this. So first off, Ruka talks to you about the self-conceited nature and of this international organizations, as he talks to you about the polarization and how these individuals tend to put their interest first. So it is a commonality of interest, not particularly a commonality of in solution to problems and the rest of it all. And what does David primarily ask in response is that he says, like United Nations always act like, and it gives instances, right? We tell you that the instances where it gives is as a result, there is an underlying reason for this, and the only underlying reasons for this is as a result of the permanent interest that many of these power blocks in the international nations have in these countries, right? So basically, one example is in Syria, for example, when the crisis first started, everyone primarily, went ranting on social media and the rest of it all. But as a result of the fact that oil stopped primarily, we think, the United Nations now saw this as a very, very crucial problem primarily. So we think to the extent whereby there is a need for them to act only comes in instances where permanent interest of the power blocks involved is very, very crucial. Only in this instance, United Nations doesn't primarily act. We've seen them fail in so many instances. We feel them fail in the instance of, genocide in Rwanda, when they felt that they had nothing primarily to lose in this. So we think that doesn't really fall into this debate. Secondly, what does he have, on multiplicity of conflicting interests and corrective measures? It doesn't primarily engage that. But what exactly is it that David talks and brings to you in today's debate? Aside that, he talks about the hierarchy in magisterial whatsoever. This is something that their opening says, and it's something even our opening response to by talking to you about the power blocks that exist primarily. He says that the power blocks that exist is something that doesn't permit the power blocks that exist is something that doesn't permit these decisions to be made for all and sundry, right? And this is something Ruka primarily expatiates in a matter when she talks about this polarization. So we think that if United Nations primarily acts in an hierarchical manner, then and to all and sundry, we think majorly many of these African states will see the total benefit and the rest of it all. To the very extent whereby we've not seen the fusion of this, we think it is very flawed for him to think this hierarchical and magisterial whatever is something that is going to function. Secondly, he talks about the global sphere of debate and how he says that the UN is not, would engage this logically, right? First and foremost, Ruka talks to you about how there is more else a generalization of this sort. So we think that two things may affect this. There's a mainstreaming which these international organizations tend to act upon, and this mainstreaming comes from external factors, right? And secondly, we think that even when they do this, they do not have the necessary weaponry to do such a thing. This is something opening gives to you, opening already responds to their case to show you how irrelevant it is when it talks to you about proximity and how there is no the know-how and the knowledgeable weaponry with the knowledge within their arsenal to be able to label these things as what it is. Now talking about the relativism and the rest of the relativism that it brings and whatnot, we think that in a state that exists, they primarily exist conflicting ideologies, right? And that is why certain ideologies have allies, right? To the extent whereby these allies in and of themselves can combat this sort of relativism, can bring about this relativism in a state. We don't think relativism is a thing that has to be extended to international fronts before it can be achieved. I'll take it in a minute, don't worry. Secondly, we think primarily, we think that if at all you talk about relativism in any instance, we think it is not a relativism that is very much intersubjective as it tries to paint it. We think there are certain individuals that will still be excluded in mainstreaming what exactly extremism ought to be for the entire nation to follow primarily. So what exactly is it that Ruka talks to you about which makes us trump over our opening? But then I'll take you.
All right. So if the power blocks or the superpowers international organization represents the key ideological leanings of the whole world, why is it wrong to subject to their perspectives than your single focused government?
Very well. This is beautiful. Panel, we see that the polarization of these things is going to bring about a delay where extremism, because extremism doesn't just go beyond tagging. We think extremism also needs that the tagging isn't just in word, the tagging also follows action. To the extent where there's a polarization, we think there will not be an objective lens in where to view this. And this objective lens, the absence of this objective lens is going to bring a form of delay. And that is why we see that because these individuals will not be begin to see it as a thing of terminology and the rest of it all. And as a result of that, we may not have like there will not be a mutual grant primarily. And panel, we say even if there is a mutual grant, we don't think that these individuals have the necessary mechanism in their arsenal to be able to enforce what these things. And this is what RUCA brings to you with differentiation from our opening. Our opening comes to talk to you about how the maintenance of this legitimacy and whatnot. But we think beyond tagging, which is a thing that this motion seeks to solve, we think RUCA primarily tells you that there is a need, for you to be able to enforce these things. And we think United Nations and other international organizations would not want to surrender their manpower because they notice it's very, very crucial to them primarily. So we think to this extent, this is very much legitimate. But then, what exactly do we get from the opening half, and how do we think RUCA trumps this? RUCA trumps this in our first deconstructive matter when she talks to you about the absence of enforcement, mechanism. Because these guys talk about how, dictatorial and whatnot and the rest of it all. RUCA says that a dictatorial nation will not want to subject, to the whims and caprices of United Nations because it is tagging something that is fundamentally against what it believes in. We don't think there can be cooperation in this sense, and as such, all these entire things that they build about, about how there will be cooperation with states in eradicating this, it doesn't fall in today's debate primarily. So they also talk about recurring violence. We think like recurring nature of violence is something that will primarily exist because of the very fact that, even when international organizations cannot primarily satisfy every individual will have, a primary definition of what extremism is. To this very extent, we think violence is still something that is going to occur even on their side. Primarily, panel, we think since we've taken out opposition's closing government's case, what exactly takes us ahead of our opening? Our opening talks to you about the proximity factor, nature of leadership, and all objective tagging and all the rest of it all. But RUCA speaks to the spirit of this motion when she talks to you about like how this thing is not just tagging as all the other teams have engaged in, goes beyond words, right? RUCA thinks when you tag an individual, you are setting rights, and when you tag a group, there are certain rights and there are certain benefits that you tend to deprive such a group from. To the extent whereby this deprivation, the weapon of deprivation is not in the hands of these United Nations, but basically the weapon of deprivation is in the hands of these states and of themselves. We think the right and the perfect actor to do such is something that belongs to the states. Panel, in all, what have we exactly told you? And what have we exactly told you? RUCA has spoken to you about the self-contradicted nature. She has spoken to you about the multiplicity of conflicting interests, and she has also spoken to you about the corrective measures and how the United Nations already has the privilege to correct these things. The extra privilege, none of them has proven to us on this side of the bench, and this we think we are proud to oppose. Yeah, we are open.